Did you know that in 2009, Satya Nadella was passed over for a promotion because he wasn't Microsoft's Steve Ballmer? The fast-talking, brash Ballmer type who once threw a chair across the room during an earnings call. But here we are, 14 years later. And Nader has turned Microsoft into the most valuable company on the planet. Today, Microsoft is worth nearly $3 trillion, more than double what it was when Nader took over. And its success has come from transforming itself from a software company into a platform company, one that doesn't just sell products, but enables other companies to build on top of its services too. This new model has led to exponential growth for Microsoft, which has been dubbed the new IBM. But unlike Big Blue, Microsoft has managed to stay relevant decade after decade. So how did Nadella take a fragmented tech giant and turn it into the most valuable company on the planet? What can we learn from his story as executives and entrepreneurs? And how can we apply these lessons to our own lives? We recently made a video on Tim Cook and how he saved Apple from a disaster. And if you haven't already watched that, go check it out before watching this one. As always, an executive who fixes a broken company is only promoted after the company turns around. But for Nadella, it was quite the opposite. He was demoted before getting the top job. You see, when Nadella joined Microsoft in 1992, the company was very different than it is today. It was still recovering from a massive antitrust lawsuit. Windows XP had just been released, and the Internet was just starting to become popular. Over the next 2 decades, Nadella would hold various management positions at the company, including leading Microsoft's online services division, which included MSN, Hotmail, and Windows Live. But as Nadella rose through the ranks, he started to notice that Microsoft was becoming increasingly bureaucratic, territorial, and ultimately uncompetitive. In fact, there was so much infighting at the company that Steve Ballmer once challenged his employees to a basketball game and then told them that the people on his team could get together whenever they wanted and work on whatever projects they wanted, seemingly giving them permission to leave Microsoft's usual cutthroat environment. At the time, Ballmer saw himself as the chosen one, the only person who could keep Microsoft from breaking apart. But as the cloud revolution approached, it became clear that neither Ballmer nor any of Microsoft's current leaders had the vision or ability to steer the company through the coming changes. So in February of 2014, John Thompson, the chairman of Microsoft's board, asked Nadella to lead a review of the company's strategy and operations. While nobody expected it at the time, this would be the beginning of Nadella taking over Microsoft. Nadella began his review by sitting down with thousands of Microsoft employees all around the world, asking them simple questions like, "What keeps you up at night?" He soon realized that most of them were worried about Microsoft's direction and felt demoralized by the infighting among departments and the lack of a compelling vision for the future. Nader wrote down their concerns and made a promise to address them, not realizing yet that he would soon be tasked with doing just that. In March of 2014, Ballmer announced that he would retire as CEO in a few months, and while many speculated that Nadella would replace him, the board decided otherwise. Instead, they would promote Satya Nadella to CEO and name John Thompson as chairman, effectively handing the reins of the company to 2 outsiders. Despite being passed over for the top job, Nadella accepted his new position gracefully, and many saw it as an opportunity for Microsoft to move past the antics of the Ballmer era and embrace a new leader with a fresh perspective. In his first town hall meeting, Nadella shared the results of his employee survey and outlined his vision for a more inclusive, innovative, and customer-centric Microsoft. His message was well received by employees and investors alike, and many saw it as a breath of fresh air in an industry that was known for its cutthroat competition and aggressive posturing. However, the honeymoon period didn't last long. As soon as Nadella took over as CEO, he immediately faced a number of challenges. The company's stock price was stagnant, and its growth was slowing down. Moreover, its main products, such as Windows and Office, were no longer selling as well as they used to. At the same time, new competitors such as Google and Amazon were emerging and threatening Microsoft's core businesses. Despite these challenges, Nadella remained calm and focused on his long-term vision. He knew that the key to turning around Microsoft was to make bold moves that would transform the company from a product-based business to a service-based business. In other words, instead of selling software licenses, Microsoft needed to start offering software as a service. This meant that customers could access Microsoft as software online and pay for it on a subscription basis rather than having to buy expensive licenses up front. However, this was easier said than done. For starters, Microsoft's infrastructure was not designed for a cloud-based business model. Moreover, the company's corporate culture was not conducive to innovation and experimentation, which were essential for developing new cloud-based services. Finally, Microsoft's competitors such as Google and Amazon were already well established in the cloud market and had the advantage of being early movers. But none of this mattered to Nadella. He knew that cloud computing was the future and that Microsoft needed to make the transition quickly. So he started to make some bold moves. One of the first things he did was to reorganize Microsoft around its cloud-based operating system called Azure. This meant that all of Microsoft's software developers would now report to Mark Russinovich, the head of Azure, rather than to the traditional product-based divisions such as Windows or Office. This move allowed Microsoft to develop new cloud-based services much faster because developers no longer had to coordinate across multiple divisions. In addition to reorganizing its workforce, Microsoft also needed to change its corporate culture. For years, the company had been known for its territorial and combative culture, which was not conducive to innovation or experimentation. However, under Nadella's leadership, Microsoft began to embrace a more collaborative and inclusive culture. He encouraged employees to share ideas across departments and to work together to develop innovative solutions. He also made it clear that failure was not an option at Microsoft and that employees should not be punished for taking risks. This new culture of openness and experimentation allowed Microsoft to develop new products and services much faster. One of the most significant examples of this was the development of Microsoft's new productivity service called Office 365. Office 365 was a cloud-based version of Microsoft's popular Office suite of productivity tools such as Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. Unlike the traditional Office suite, which required users to purchase expensive licenses, Office 365 was available on a subscription basis. This made it much more affordable for businesses and consumers alike, and it also generated a steady stream of revenue for Microsoft. Office 365 was not the only example of Microsoft's new approach to cloud computing. In the gaming industry, for example, Microsoft launched a cloud-based gaming service called Xbox Cloud Gaming, which allowed users to stream games over the Internet, rather than having to download and install them on their consoles. This service was a game-changer in the gaming industry, and it allowed Microsoft to tap into a whole new market of cloud-based gamers. The transition to a cloud-based business model was not easy. In fact, it required Microsoft to make some painful decisions. For example, in 2014, the company announced that it would lay off 18,000 employees as part of a cost-cutting measure. This was a difficult decision for Nadella to make, but he knew that it was necessary in order to invest in new cloud-based services. Fortunately, the layoffs did not affect morale at Microsoft. Employees understood that the company had to take these measures in order to remain competitive in the cloud market. In the end, Nadella's bold moves paid off. Today, Microsoft is one of the most successful companies in the world. Its stock price has increased more than 1,000% since Nadella took over, and it has become one of the most valuable brands in the world. And while Nadella's story is impressive, it's also very relatable. He's not a genius or a billionaire, but an ordinary person who faced extraordinary challenges. But he was able to overcome those challenges by staying focused on his long-term vision and making bold moves when necessary. Ultimately, Nadella's story shows us that it's possible to achieve great things if you have a clear vision and the courage to pursue it. So if you want to follow in Nadella's footsteps, start by identifying your long-term goals and then develop a plan to achieve them. Once you have a plan in place, be brave enough to make the tough decisions that will help you reach your destination. Remember, success doesn't come easy, but if you're willing to put in the hard work, you can achieve anything you set your mind to. As you can probably tell, we really enjoyed making this video. In fact, we love making videos about transformational leaders who take companies from the brink of disaster and turn them around. So if you like this video and you want to see more of them, let us know by leaving a comment below. We're always listening to your feedback, and we want to make sure we're producing the kind of content that you want to see. So please take a moment to leave a comment. Let us know what you think, and tell us what kind of topics you would like to see us cover in the future. We appreciate your support, and we look forward to bringing you more great content in the future. Thanks for watching.